Look, Rod Dreher lives in a small town in Louisiana. He's a former Methodist who became a Catholic, who became an Orthodox Christian. He goes to a small Orthodox church in a small town in Louisiana, and they get together, and they have fellowship. And they're practicing the Benedictine option. They had no other choice. I think that if Rod were here, he would, and if I said to him, since we all live in the different towns around in Virginia, what do you suggest us? We all move to a farm in Upperville, Virginia? No. I think we just need to do a better job of being community where we are, of really, really experiencing deep fellowship in our women's groups, in our men's groups, in our fellowship groups, in our Sunday schools, in our church attendance. We need to better, what I like about the Benedict option is saying, hey folks, we're not the majority culture anymore. We need to get together and encourage one another. And we need to build each other up. Well, this is what the church is supposed to be anyway. So I would say, Rod, if you're sitting here, Rod, you're just saying for the church to be the church. I don't think it's a funny thing. Rod Dreher, you read his blog, he's a provocative, thoughtful writer. When you question him on these very points, he said, well, I don't mean to withdraw, and I don't mean leave the culture, and I'm not really anti-political, although everything I just said was anti-political. There's all these qualifications. So I think he's being provocative for a purpose, which is to say, there used to be monks who said, Rome is going to hell and we're leaving town. And that's what's happening to America, and so he's kind of saying that. Well, if what he says gets us all together better in encouraging each other and caring for each other, more intentionally than ever before, more intentionally, meeting in fellowship, praying for each other, caring for each other in our struggles, then all to the good. That's a form of the Benedict option in the sense of us being really better at experiencing koinonia. When I was a young, you didn't get this in my introduction, Joel. When I was a young new Christian, I was a Christian hippie lefty, and I lived in a Christian commune, literally. And we were committed to, we hated America because we were left-wing political nuts. We read the Berrigans, and we were going to live in community and change the world by our light, by the fact that we loved one another. It was kind of crazy. It was nuts. But you know what? There's actually something to the fact of people getting together better, being more intentional about really getting together. One of the problems of modern technological society is we're all so far apart from each other. So I think the movement in the late 60s and early 70s of a lot of Christian commune movements was a kind of a Benedictine movement of we all need to live together, eat together, have meals together. And we did. Now, thankfully, I moved out of that. Maybe you could tell. I hope you could. But there's something about us having more meals together and more fellowship together. And by the way, non-believers, when they see that, are really drawn to it. They really are. There's a famous reporter in this town who, for a moment, she goes to one of our churches, used to work at National Public Radio, who, when she saw the koinonia in California, when she went to do a story on 3 megachurches, and she saw the way the Christians loved one another, cared for one another, and she wrote it up for the LA Times Magazine at the end of her interviews. Well, during the interview, she went and bought a New Testament, read through the whole New Testament. In her last interview, she said to the head of a big mega church in California, she said, I so much wanted to ask him, how can I become a Christian? Because I have seen the way Christians care for each other. But she said, as a reporter, I knew I couldn't ask, so I didn't. So we cut off the tapes, and the person she was interviewing, a famous person you would recognize, said to her, Barbara, it doesn't really matter to me what you think about our church. What matters to me is how you can become a Christian. She said, tell me how. Tell me how. Now, she would tell you today, it was the koinonia that she saw in those different, she was blown away by the fellowship hall, by the way people cared for each other. It was totally alien to her lonely, atomized, autonomous world. And so if we can be the Benedict option in different ways, by the way, the Institute can do this by bringing people together, the way you do it now. It's a witness to the world.